What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down this 12-game NBA slate we have here on DraftKings. I'll be talking through some of my favorite plays, some favorite value plays, my favorite core plays, as well as building a potential lineup for you guys. So make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Do really appreciate all the support we got on that last video yesterday. It does truly mean everything to me. So thank you guys for hitting that like button. Thank you guys for subscribing. Truly appreciate it. And before we jump into this, just want to do a quick housekeeping. For my Patreon members, yes, I have a Patreon. You can find it linked down below. Just give me a few days. I'm trying to figure out, obviously, I work for full time. Fortunately, don't do this as my full time job. One day, hopefully, but as of right now, I work full time. So I'm trying to figure out for my Patreon members the best way to put up my content. So I'll be putting my prize pick plays there. So you guys get access to it early, as well as my DFS NBA write ups for each slate. So trying to figure out that schedule. So give me a few days so I can figure that out. I will put up my prize pick plays early in that tonight if you guys are already in that Patreon. But once again, just give me a few days for that. And yeah, also another thing, going to try to put up videos for every single slate, especially for at least DraftKings. I'll try to put up a video for every single prize pick slate as well. Can't guarantee that, at least for prize picks, but for DraftKings, I should be able to put up a video for every single slate. Once again, obviously working full time, stuff pops up. It's kind of hard to make these videos every single day, but I'm going to do my best for you guys. So let's jump right into it. 12 games, going to be a pretty quick breakdown. I'm going to try to keep it under 20 minutes, so it's not too long, so I don't ramble for too much. But before we get into it, just wanted to a quick look at my lineup right here. It's halftime of the second game. But I went with, or it looks like it just started, but went with Booker, Gordon, Prince, Durant, Jokic, Gary Payton, Rui, and Nurkic. On my Twitter, if you guys follow me there, I switched the core plays to Booker, Durant, Jokic, and I think Rui. If you guys follow me on Twitter, are very, very annoying, but Rui started off the game 0 of 2, played 5 minutes, didn't even finish his shift there in the first quarter. He got pulled for LeBron, finished the rest of the game 2 of 7. Super frustrating there. Lost out on a ton of minutes. Of course, he's only 6% owned in the 200K to first. Only 6% owned. And of course, he has one of his worst games of the season. And since he joined the Lakers, very, very frustrating there. Eric Gordon, 2 of 9. So Rui goes 2 of 9. Eric Gordon starts the game 2 of 9. Kevin Durant starts the game 2 of 9. 3 guys in my lineup start 2 of 9. But yeah, I'll easily be able to cash with this lineup. I mean, Nurkic, only 23%. Talked about how I absolutely loved him at that price tag. Uh, just going off right there. Already has a double double. Almost has that third assist to hit the over there for his assist for the price pick plays. But yeah, I should be able to at least cash, if not double up my money, possibly even triple up my money. We'll see. Hopefully Kevin Durant can turn it on there in that second half. Booker's going off. Nurkic's going off, and it would be nice if Gary Payton and Eric Gordon could do something there and not go 2 of 30. But that's my lineup. So it should be a solid cash night, getting my money back, making maybe a few bucks on top of it. But in terms of this slate tomorrow here, let's jump right into it. So starting off here, 12 game slate. Hawks, Hornets, 235.5 game total. So that's a nice one there. Same thing with Wizards, Pacers, 235. Celtics, Knicks, obviously 225.5. Doesn't look the best. 222 for the Magic and Rockets. That is very disgusting. Same thing with the Cavs and Nets, 221. 219 for the Heat and Pistons. As you can see, a lot of gross games here that you don't really want to target just in terms of like the game total. Obviously, we can have a few pieces from these games go off, but still, you kind of want to focus on the higher game totals just because obviously more points makes it, more likely that your guys will have more fantasy points. Wolves, Raptors, 222. Thunderbolts, 227.5. Pelicans, Grizzlies, 227. Kings, Jazz, 237. Mavs, Spurs, 229.5. And then Blazers, Clippers, 227. Just want to confirm that all those games are on there. Okay, yep, they are. So, yep, no one-off game here for tomorrow. And then jumping right into the slate, let's just do a position by position. I think they'll be easiest for this, slate breakdown. So we can spend like maybe 4 or 5 minutes on each position there. Start off here with the point guard position. Obviously, Luka Doncic. First off, one more thing before I get into it. If you're a new DFS player, obviously contest selection is probably the most key thing to make sure you're doing. I'd stay, play in the low stakes, play in single entries, do not play in the high, dollar GPPs, because it's basically burning your money. So if you want to, better your chances of cashing, play in single entries, but also make sure to follow Underdog NBA on Twitter. I am not sponsored by them. I wish. So if you're watching Underdog, holler at your boy. Let me get a sponsorship. But yeah, follow Underdog NBA on Twitter and stay up to date with all the news, especially on a slate like this. If you're going to be playing, even if you're going to be playing casually, only for a few bucks. I mean, if you want to have any chance of winning or having at least the chance to cash, you got to follow the news all the way up into these last games because it could really come down to some news in like this Dallas Spurs game or the Portland Clippers game where you leave one, two, maybe even three spots open for these late games where if the news shifts your way, that could change the whole slate. So that's what's key about the NBA compared to the NFL. In the NBA, you had to watch the news for every single game up until the lock, up until the very last games. You kind of want to build your lineup around the fact that possibly a star, maybe some key players in the late games might not play, and you can take advantage of that because most people, especially the casuals, don't do that. So that's my only key rule is follow the news up until the slate, especially for these breakdowns. A lot of times for these breakdowns, we break these down, but with the news, it can all change by the time this is even uploaded tomorrow morning, or by the time you guys see it in the midday afternoon. So always keep up with the news. It changes the whole entire slate. So yeah, follow Underdog NBA on Twitter there. That is just what I really just want to stress that. I'm going to stress it for the first month just with all the new people tuning in. Once again, I'm sorry it's taking 6 minutes to get to this breakdown, but let's get right into it. For the point guard position, Luke at the top, 11K. Calf soreness, it seems like he should be good to go, but obviously we still don't know his availability. If he's out, let's just do a quick, deep dive into the Mavs here. And kind of just, let's just kind of go over who we can look to if there's no Luka. Obviously, if there's no Luka, it makes Kyrie a really, really strong play there. 10-2 going against the Spurs defense. Would really, really like that. Obviously, it would raise the floors of a guy like Hardaway Jr., who should shoot more. Even, Seth Curry there back on the Mavs. A lot of these guys on the Spurs, all the offensive players like Hardaway Jr., like Kyrie Irving, like Seth Curry, they should all shoot the ball more. Guys like, not Jermichael, Josh Green could be possibly moving to the starting lineup. I mean, he's a guy they just signed to a solid deal. He's kind of one of those guys, kind of high energy guy, can do a little bit of everything. Maybe we can even look to Hardy if he's good to go off the bench there to be aggressive. But yeah, the main things are obviously I'd say Kyrie and Tim Hardaway Jr. But there's a lot to like there if there's no Luka. So once again, keep up with the news there. But heading over to back to the point guard position, if there is Luka, obviously versus the Spurs, it should be Swiss cheese for him. 11K. I don't know if I want to pay that much for him right now. It's not like we're getting him at a Jokic price tag, which was what 10K, $1,000 cheaper. So for right now, kind of more of a fade, but we'll have to wait and see kind of what happens with that news there. SGA 10-5. It's just too priced up for me. I mean, he's fantastic. I love him. One of my favorite players in the NBA. Going against the Bulls, but still, it's just too pricey for me at that spot. Kyrie, love him if there's no Luka. LaMelo Ball, a lot of these guys are priced up. So right now, not loving a ton up here in the top part for the point guard position. Kind of moving on down here, I do like Tyrese Halliburton. Pretty much averaged a double-double there. Did for last season in terms of points per game and assists. So I really like him here going against Washington. It should be a fast-paced, high-scoring game. Not a lot of defense. So he's really sticking out to me. Cade Cunningham, really just got to see kind of what happens there. He's probably going to have to get his legs underneath him. So I don't love that price tag there. Moving on down here, Jordan Poole is going to be a very strong and popular play. It's his team. He's probably going to shoot 20 plus times, maybe 25 times. So a nice bring back there if you do play Halliburton. Moving on down here a little bit more. Some guys that could go under the radar. Terry Rozier, I think he sticks out here. Should be playing, close to 35 minutes. He has a really, really solid ceiling. Going against the Hawks, once again, a team that doesn't play a ton of defense there. Do really like him. Garland's questionable. If he's out, obviously that opens up some value. But moving on down here a little bit more. Simons, I'm going to put him as a core play as of right now. I know there's Scoot Henderson, but Simons with it, this is his team now with no Dame. He's going to be super, super aggressive. As you can see here, he will shoot the ball 20 plus times most likely. He'll probably average 18 shot attempts per game. The offense probably will run through him. He's going to be the main focus. And then, Scoot and other guys will step up. So really, really like Anthony Simons right now going against the Clippers. Obviously not the best matchup there, but they're really going to need to rely on him at that price tag. I think it's a great price tag to get him, a guy who's going to shoot the ball 20 plus times. Moving on down here, Hero sticks out to me. Moving on and down even more, who really sticks out here? It's one of those things. There's so many options on a 12 game slate. It's kind of hard to really focus on a few, but I'm going to try my best to do that for you guys. I do like Markel Fultz. I do think it'll be a breakout year here for Markel Fultz, another guy who's coming in at a very solid price tag. Was better each and every game last year going into the end of the season, so he's a strong option there. Moving on down here, nothing too crazy in terms of like standout plays. As I said, there's a lot to pick from here. Sexton, he was solid. If he's going to start or if he's going to come off the bench as that six man, don't mind taking a shot at him at 4,800. Once again, on a slate like this with 12 games, first game for pretty much every single team, it's going to take a little bit just to kind of understand the rotations, who's going to get the ball in terms of some of the teams have new players, new alphas. So right now, kind of like going the cheaper route, kind of the more mid-range build for the slate tomorrow. So with point guard, going to stick with Anthony Simons as of right now. For the shooting guard position, obviously Kyrie's there. We talked about him. Anthony Edwards, it's going to be his team. He's going to be an absolute dog here this year. So I think he's a great spin up there at 9.6. Moving on down here a little bit, the Celtics, they're more of a stay away from me. I don't like the slow game environment there, as well as adding Kristaps Porzingis. It's just gonna be interesting to see kind of how that offensive flows. So right now, kind of more of a stay away, even though they're coming in at pretty cheap price tags across the board with Kristaps and Drew Holiday. They are being pretty cheap. Moving on down here a little bit more, I do like Mikal Bridges. He was the main guy there last year. Going to be absolutely trucking up shots once again. I think Zach Levine's coming in at a pretty cheap price tag. He was pretty much like an 8K player last year, coming in at 6.8, so there's a little bit of a discount there. They didn't add anyone too crazy. Moving on down a little bit more here, as you can see, Drew Holiday pretty cheap, but still, it's just one of those things. I think if I was going to land on someone, it'd probably be Drew Holiday. Even if he's going to be like the fourth option, he still does a little bit of everything to at least get there at that price tag. So he is sticking out a little bit to me. There. Moving on down a little bit more here, a little bit cheaper options. Benedict Mathurin, I expect him to take that step up this year. A very strong, solid player there. He's kind of sticking out to me there at 5.4 as a really solid play. As of right now, that's kind of it. Obviously, Karis LeVert would look great if there is no uh, Darius Garland, and obviously Donovan Mitchell would get a bump as well. So keep an eye out on that. But I don't think we really need to get too crazy with the value here for this shooting guard position. I do think I'm going to go with Benedict Mathurin there at 5.4. Moving on to the small forward position, starting up top here, Tatum. As I mentioned, it's just one of those things. It's more of a wait and see approach. Obviously, it's still going to be Tatum's team. He's still going to have great games, but I just kind of want to see how this rotation kind of works out and the offense works out these first few games for the Celtics before I jump into them. Moving on down here, I think Paul George and Kawhi are obviously very strong plays there. Two alphas. They should be good to go 100%. Do like them in that matchup there. Brandon Ingram is sticking out to me. Had a terrible team, had a very brutal FIBA World Cup there with the USA team. I think he's going to come out, be super aggressive. Really going to want to shut up the haters. And he's a very talented player. Obviously, it's just one of those things. He didn't really, work out with the FIBA World Cup. Who cares? Don't hold that against him. But as you can see, he has massive upside. Finishing off the season with almost a 50 bomb, 73 bomb, 36 spin, 57, 42, 52, 63. I mean, it's Brandon Ingram. This dude's a dog. Don't let the price tag fool you. So right now, he's kind of sticking out to be in that small forward position. I'm moving on down here a little bit more. Ben Simmons is interesting. I mean, he should probably be good to go. Probably should see 30 minutes. I mean, I do think he'll have a nice bounce back season there. So I think he's coming at a solid price tag, 5,900 there. As ugly and, as annoying as it sounds, Ben Simmons, I think we can definitely look to him at that price tag. Gordon Hayward coming in at a decent price tag there as well. Pretty cheap there, 5.5. Do like him. even with the addition of Brandon Miller there, Gordon Hayward should still have a strong, you know, option there. I do like Denny here, 5,300. I know there's some clips going around on social media of him and Jordan Poole kind of having beef there because Jordan Poole won't pass the ball, but he's one of those players that can do a little bit of everything. He can score points, he can get some steals, he can get some assists, he can get some rebounds. I think Kyle Kuzma is questionable. So if he's out, we can definitely look to Denny, kind of being that small forward, power forward, who should play a decent amount of the game. They just signed him to a nice contract as well. So he's coming in at a pretty cheap price tag there at 5,300. Moving on down a little bit more, I do like Shaden Sharp, another one of those young guys on Portland who should get a ton of run and had a very, very solid end to the season. Obviously, they were tanking, but he really stepped up to the plate there. So 5,100. I mean, it's going to be him, Scoot, and Anthony Simons teams. They're all probably going to shoot 10 plus times. I do think Anthony Simons will kind of lead the way there along with Scoot, but don't be surprised for Shaden Sharp to kind of step up to the plate there. So I do have a lot of interest in that Portland team there with those young stars. I do think Malcolm Brogdon will get traded at some point, so hopefully he doesn't eat too much into those guards' minutes. But moving on down here, once again, I don't think there's a real need to dip down into any of these cheaper guys. Sohan might start, or I know he should start. He might be the starting point guard. We'll have to wait and see. That's kind of the last lineup they ran in the last preseason game was him starting at point guard. So, I mean, with him starting, and especially if he's the starting point guard, I think he should be playing close to 30 minutes, and he is a good upside. So, if that's the case there, I think he comes in at a way too cheap of a price tag of 4,700. So right now, going to throw him in there, but obviously wait for the news that he's going to be starting, at point guard. But even if he starts, I think it's a very solid price tag. Moving on up here to the power forward position, Siakam, Zion's priced up already there. Paolo's, really, really priced up. Nothing really sticking out to me as of right now. Victor, it's just gonna be a lock and load for me with Victor. I mean, it's one of those things. I won't be surprised if he averages like 5 blocks a game. Probably gonna get 15 points, at least 10 rebounds, 5 blocks a game. I mean, something crazy like that. Comes in at a pretty solid price tag. He's gonna be super popular, but for good reason. 8,500 for a guy who should. I would assume they're not gonna limit him all. We don't know with Pop, but still should play 30 minutes, and he's gonna get every single look and pass. So really like Victor there at that price tag of 8,500. Moving on down here, as I mentioned, the Celtics guys are pretty cheap, but it's one of those things where it's just I kind of want to see how that offense works out. As I mentioned a few times here, Kuzma, it looks like he is not on the injury report, is good to go, so it's going to be him and Jordan Poole's team. Denny will be that third option, but I still think Denny comes in a solid price tag. I think Kuzma comes in a very strong price tag as well there. Great game environment, so have a lot of interest in that Washington-Indiana game. Jaren Jackson Jr., pretty strong price tag there, 6,600. As you can see, he kind of finished the season off at like a mid 8K to 9K player. Chet Holmgren, I think is way too cheap here. Not the best matchup going against Vooch, who is pretty big, but I do think they'll probably start Jalen Williams there, and then they'll have Chet Holmgren as a power forward, and then they'll have Jalen Williams, the other one, Giddy, and SGA. So I really like this price tag here for Chet Holmgren. Going to be a very popular play once again, but coming in a very cheap price tag. Nice to get him in that power forward center availability. Moving on down here, in terms of cheaper options, Mobley looks really solid there. Not really sure. Well, it is Jalen Williams. I mean, he's coming in a pretty strong price tag there. I will mention, PG Washington, Jabari Smith Jr. kind of like similar plays in terms of how they play, but two very cheap price tags for both of them who should have step ups this year. That's really it. It's nothing too crazy here. Horford is questionable, so obviously he's out. That does open up a little bit more value, makes the other guys more viable. But in terms of cheaper options, nothing too crazy for anyone down here. Moving on up to the center spot here. Sponis at the top, 10-3, looks fantastic. He's like a mini Jokic. Obviously one of those guys who can do a little bit of everything. So he's always a strong option at 10-3. I don't think there's a need to pay up to him as of right now, though. Moving on down here a little bit more. Who's sticking out to me here? Nothing too crazy. Podol, decent price tag. I mean, he showed some solid ceiling there in Toronto, but Yeah, nothing too crazy for me in terms of center plays. Miles Turner, probably the main one I'd look to. They kind of shut him down closer towards the end of the season there, so nothing too crazy for him. But he is monster upside, and it looks like they're not going to ship him away. So right now, I do really like Miles Turner there at that price tag. As I mentioned, this is going to be more of like a mid-range build for me in this slate. I don't really think there's a need to pay up for the studs because there's a lot of options here in this mid-range that should get a ton of looks, should get a ton of run, and they're coming at very cheap price tags. So yeah, I like Miles Turner there a ton at his price tag. Moving on down here a little bit more. Nothing too crazy standing out to me. I'm sure I'm missing some people. I apologize, guys. Obviously, with 6,000 people to choose from the whole league in this slate breakdown, it's going to get some getting used to at least a few games under my belt to really know the whole rotations in and out because there were a decent amount of trades in terms of last season going into this year in terms of trades or signings, people joining other teams. So we'll have to kind of learn the rotations as they go, but as of right now, as I mentioned, I think it's just more of a mid-range build. Don't think there's a need to get too crazy on the slate here. So for the kind of the center spot, I know it's already filled there, but I do really like Miles Turner there at 5,900, and those are kind of going to be the core plays. So in terms of core plays, I think it's going to be Anthony Simons, Sohan if he gets that start, especially at point, Victor, Chat, and Miles Turner. Matherin, you don't have to take as a core play. I just really like that price tag for him. Should be kind of a leader there. I hopefully he starts the season. We'll have to wait and see. I want to see what they have as a depth chart there for Indiana. Right now, Tyrese Benedict, so he should start this year, which is great. Coming off the bench last year for a lot of those games, he should be a very strong option there. Um, I mean, if Obi Toppin, I didn't even see this year, but if Obi Toppin, starts at power forward, or if we get Jarris Walker, cheap price tags, we could definitely look to him if you're looking for a value play. One of those two would be pretty solid. Whoever gets to start, even though whoever comes off the bench, I do think they'll be aggressive. So if you're looking for a cheap option, that's kind of standing out as kind of my favorite right now. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of routes to go on this slate. As I said, for the fifth time, I do think, right now, don't get too crazy. There's a lot of, options and routes to go. Stick with the higher scoring games. Stick with, teams kind of like Indiana, Washington, or Portland, where they're very young and they kind of have, you kind of know who is going to be super aggressive from each team. So as I mentioned, for like Washington, it's going to be the Poole, Kuzma, and Denny Show there. I mean, Tyus Jones coming in at a solid price tag. I mean, he should be starting point guard. He should be playing probably 30 plus minutes. I mean, he's a guy that does have a lot of upside, especially he can get that double upside with assists. So I think he'd be a solid option there. But for Indiana, we know it's the Tyrese. It's going to be the Tyrese Benedict show there. Moving on to in Miles Turner. Moving on to a team like Portland, it's going to be the Anthony Simons show along with Scoot Henderson and Shannon Sharp. I know they still have Grant, they have Aiton, but still, I do think these young guards will kind of take over and run that offense. So right now, really like Anthony Simons, and then like Dallas, or excuse me, like San Antonio. Obviously, we know it's going to be the Victor show, but they have two strong players in Vassell and Johnson, who are going to be kind of the offensive minded players. But you have a guy like Sohan who can kind of do a little bit of everything. So there's a lot to like here on the slate. A lot of good spots, a lot of high scoring games. It's really just kind of how you want to go. As I said, for the 10th time, I do think the best option right now is to go with more of a mid range build. You can kind of pay up for any stud you want. But right now, I do think there's a guy in a lot of spots like Anthony Simons. He should be a lock for probably 35 minutes, should probably shoot the ball 20 plus times. Benedict Mathurin, kind of the same thing. At least 35 minutes, should probably shoot around 15 times. Sohan, should probably he's going to start and he should probably be the starting point guard. Not like the most skilled guy and not like the best shooter, but as you can see, that he will be aggressive. I'd at least expect 10 shots out of him. Excuse me, here's adjust my light. But yeah, I kind of expect at least 10 shots out of Sohan here. Has some assist upside. Has really solid upside there. So cheap price tag for him, 4,700. I mean, Victor and Chet, not much yet to really say. I mean, they have massive upside there with the blocks. Cheap price tags. They should both be playing 30 plus minutes. Then Miles Turner, kind of the same thing. It's going to be the Miles Turner show there, along with Benedict and Tyrese Halliburton. So, I mean, another guy who has massive upside. maybe the minutes get in question, maybe he gets traded, but right now with the first game, don't think we really have to worry about that. It's really just foul trouble for him. And then you're left with 12.3K left over for 2 spots. You can pay up for Luca if you want, or you can't. Sorry, can't pay up for him. About 6,100 left over, so you can pay up for two really strong players like a Brandon Ingram, 4,400 left over. Kind of allows you to kind of get a little bit weird with what you want to go. But yeah, that's the video for you guys today. Hope you guys like the video. Hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.